I wake up and I hear this really heavy, raspy breathing sound. So it was in the room with me. Hi everyone, welcome to another video here in the shadows. I haven't done a video for a long time and I was just kind of feeling the vibe today. So I thought I will make a video just talking about my experiences with the supernatural in my own life. And I've had several experiences. So yeah, by the way, I just thrifted this jacket. It's like this yellow trench coat and I'm obsessed. So anyways, before we get started with this story time, by the way, like, let me know if you like this. I typically, if I do videos, I typically just do readings, but I'm a firm believer in, you know, the unseen world that is all around us, and I've had several experiences. So anyways, before we do that, let's just cleanse the energy by burning a little sage. Okay. We are only allowing energies of love and light here. Thank you so much. Cleanse the energy a little bit. Yeah, sometimes I do feel like talking about these things, like, you shouldn't be afraid of it, but like giving it attention can definitely, you know, open up the doorway at times. So, okay. I would say my first ever supernatural experience was when I was around 5 years old. So I had a very like complex, tumultuous childhood, just being honest. So I'm going to try and explain this in a simple way. But basically, so I was about 5 years old. I was living at my grandfather's house. My mother had also been living there as well. And I had a bedroom in this house all the way at the end of the top floor. So there was a basement, ground floor, second floor, and an attic. So I was on the second floor, and it's like you come up the stairs, and it was my grandfather's room right at the top of the stairs. It was my mother's room right next to that. And then this is like this old style row home. So like through my mother's room, there was a hallway, and at the end of that hallway was my room. It was like this cute little tiny room. I still remember very clearly this like shag green carpet and those like vintage dark wooden walls. So definitely very old school. This was an old house that had been in my family at that time for a while, a long time, several generations. So yeah, like basically we were living there after my mom had been undergoing a divorce from my stepdad. And so we had like sought refuge at my grandfather's house, basically. So things are pretty normal. It was a pretty quiet life there, and that was one of the more quiet, peaceful times of my childhood that I'm grateful for. So life was pretty simple there and a lot quieter than I was used to. One night I was sleeping in this back room. I wake up and I hear this really heavy, raspy breathing sounds. I'm gonna try and recreate it, but maybe I'll just put a sound effect in because I'm probably gonna embarrass myself. But it was kind of like, you could just picture this, like, if it was a person, it sounded like this heavy smoker that was like so out of breath. It was like yeah, actually just like that. And so it was in the room with me, right? I wake up. We had a dog at the time named Mo. He was such a cute little golden retriever. We had a dog as well as a cat. So I thought it was one of our pets because I felt like my 5-year-old mind, I didn't go right to this is like something I don't understand. I thought, oh, it's my dog is in here. So I have my little nightlight on, right? So I can see in the room. So I wake up to the sound, this literally, like, that's actually pretty spot on. So I'm gonna just do my own impressions. My door is shut. I remember this so vividly. My door is shut, meaning there's no animals in there. I look under the bed. There's nothing there. And the light in the room was very dim. However, I could clearly see everything. And I can clearly see that there was literally nothing there. And even though I didn't really understand like what, you know, a ghost might be or what this would mean, oh my gosh, I was so scared. So immediately I just pulled the covers over my head and like laid there, like literally paralyzed. Like I would not move. So I lay there paralyzed, just like in such fear. Like I was like, I just remember that moment. To me, it's like one of these experiences that's so burned into my mind because I was so scared. I just remember like being so frozen and like that fear sweat feeling. I was like shaking a little, sweating. And part of me wanted to like run out of the room and run down the hallway and get either my mom or my grandfather. But there was also this fear in me that like whatever it was, I thought it was gonna get me, right? If I tried to run. So I just lay there. It might have been maybe 5 minutes, but this goes on. It feels like to me an eternity. I just lay there absolutely paralyzed in fear. Here's the thing that still kind of gives me chills to this day is like, you know, say you were sitting across from me right now or like next to me and I'm speaking to you, right? You can hear me speaking. You can tell that I'm next to you, right? Like you can hear where the sound is coming from. I shit you not, you guys, like this sound, it was coming from like as if somebody was standing directly next to me, and that is like what gives me chills to this day. And like I swear on my life, yeah, it just continues on. Once again, it's like like just this out of breath, like strained, raspy breathing. And anyway, so eventually it stops after, to me, what feels like an eternity. And so, yeah, I'm just so freaked out. And I'm laying there, unable to sleep for a while. Eventually, I remember falling back asleep. I shit you not, I wake up, I don't know how much longer later in the night it was. I hear it again. Same exact noise, just over and over. So raspy right next to the bed. I'm so paralyzed and so scared. And eventually it stops. Eventually I managed to fall asleep. I didn't really know what to make of it. But I remember the next day I told my family, I told my grandfather and my mother, and they were just like, oh yeah, like you just had a nightmare. You just had a bad dream. It was no big deal, you know, like just try and forget about it. And I understand that perspective because that is the most logical perspective. Right? So that's what they told me. And I never forgot it to this day. But, you know, I just let it fall to the wayside of my mind. Right? And then so this is where I'm trying to like explain things clearly. So my grandmother and my grandfather had been divorced and living separate for years. But my grandmother, she, oh my gosh, first of all, just, I miss her to this day so dearly. Just like the sweetest person, the best person I've ever had in my life. Like, what a blessing she was in my life, and what a blessing so many grandparents and specifically grandmothers are to their grandchildren. She was just literally an angel on this earth, like through and through. But that being said, so they had been divorced and living separate for years at that point. But for Christmas, my grandma, she came and visited us at that house, and she was staying in the room that I would typically sleep in. I just forgot about this experience for the most part. I never really talked about it again. I didn't know what it was. So I never told my grandma about this. The next day, Christmas Day actually, we're having breakfast or whatever. My grandma, to the family, she says, yeah, it was so weird. Last night I just heard this heavy breathing sound and there was nobody there. So at that point, well, I'm getting like chills, you guys, like seriously. Everyone was at that point was like, oh shit. And then they believed me. And so that was kind of my first major supernatural experience, unexplained experience to this day that I cannot explain. That to me, I mean, there was no other explanation. I seen it with my own eyes, that there was nothing in the room. I saw it with my own eyes. And then my grandmother, who had visited, confirmed it as well. She had the same experience. So I think I had mentioned that house in particular. It was in my family for several generations. It's no longer in my family, but there was a lot of energy there. There was a lot of activity there, and I had further experiences throughout the years at that house. My grandfather was a very like logical man, and he was very like, I don't want to say stoic. He was to me, a very kind person, but a little bit stoic, like very logical, wasn't really moved by much, didn't really buy into any of this woo-woo stuff that I'm especially, you know, really involved with these days, but he didn't really buy into that. I'm saying this to say even he believed this house to be haunted because of experiences he had been having there as well. To this day, like talking about it, it gave me chills because I truly cannot explain it and I never will. And, you know, do I know what it was? No. I believe it was, of course, a spirit of some kind. Of course, not a harmful spirit, but, you know, it was quite scary, especially for a small kid. Maybe it could have been like a guardian angel, right? Watching over me at that time, watching over my grandma. There have been several people in my family that have died from like lung cancer and smoking related illnesses. So, you know, that tracks in reality. Who knows? I mean, it clearly wasn't harmful, but it was quite scary and very real to me and my grandma. So, yeah, once again, that was my first main supernatural experience, probably the most intense one I've ever had in my life. So for this video, I think I'll keep it there, but I'm kind of in a talkative mood, so I might record a few more of my experiences. So if you guys like this, let me know, and I'll be sharing the next one soon, I'm sure of it. So, all right, stay blessed, stay protected, and thanks for joining me.